So welcome to this week's Optimal Health Clinic Facebook Live. And this week I wanted to try something a little bit different, which was to do, well, firstly it's a two-part, ended up being I think a two-part video to last week's video, which was the power of giving up. So I was talking about the importance of sometimes on the recovery path, just giving yourself permission to say, I give up, it's too much, I can't do it. And actually the value of taking space and time for yourself when we do that. And I'm always reluctant when putting out content for the Optimal Health Clinic to be sensitive to the kind of fear of disappointment that people have when they invest too much hope or too much energy in the recovery path. So my tone tends to often be one of kind of caution, of going gently, of being patient, and of not kind of trying to inflate, let's say, the kind of the optimism and the kind of the potential side. But I was thinking about this over the weekend. I was watching one of my daughters on Sunday film The Greatest Showman, which is the Hugh Jackman film, which I think was at the cinema 3 or 4 months ago and has recently come out on iTunes. And it's basically a film about dreaming and about ambition and about the potential for big things to happen in life. And, you know, partly it talks about the kind of the shadow side of that and the things that can go wrong with that. But there's something that it kind of triggered in me around when we're going through challenging and difficult chapters in our life. One of the consequences of that is we get kind of consumed by the difficulty of the day-to-day and the sense of kind of not being able to see the wood for the trees, getting lost in just surviving each day, what's coming up, the sense of, I think particularly with ME/CFS, one of the things that you get very used to is this kind of constant sense of disappointment, right? That you get your hopes up, you look forward to something, or you start to feel a bit better, and then you have a mini crash or relapse, and everything kind of crashes back down again. And it's almost like you build this. Hopefully, what you build is this remarkable sense of having to keep on picking yourself up, having to keep on kind of strive and challenge to find a path, to find a way forwards. And so, what I was thinking about really is the importance of sustaining that resilience and that determination. And one of the things that helps that is having this sense of our future and life beyond being ill, and life where we can start to do the things that we can't do, you can't do at the moment, that you miss, that you love, that bring you joy, that bring you pleasure. And the importance of separating out, not getting kind of overly optimistic in the short term and trying to do too much and the crash and the kind of consequences that come from that, from allowing yourself to still have this sense of hope and dreams and an aspiration for the future. I know that one of the things which for me was crucial in keeping on picking myself up and in sustaining going through those most difficult times was the things in my life that I hadn't been able to do that I loved, that I dreamed of being able to do in the future. Partly for me, it was also the kind of work that I wanted to do and the kind of experiences I wanted to have and the kind of relationship that I wanted to be able to have. And all of these things in my life that had been restricted because of my health, to allow myself to dream of what my life could look like on the other side. And I say that the irony of the children screaming in the bath, and it's like, and it's funny. It's funny how life evolves, and the things that we want in life and the things that we value to be important evolve. But I remember back in those years that I was ill, of what some of those things were that things like to be able to travel to different places, things like to be able to do work that I was passionate about. And it's like there is something which is like an oxygen that comes from that. And it is challenging to kind of feel that and then go, right, I want to do that now, or to then start trying to bounce the boundaries too quickly, or to start throwing out the door the things that are helping, because or to feel a sense of hopelessness and impossibility because we can't do those things at the moment. So it's remembering that you need to be measured and cautious and careful and sensible, and find your baseline and balance the boundaries and have the kind of disappointments, the frustrations. But that doesn't mean that you can't, from time to time and hopefully regularly, let yourself dream about what you want your life to look like on the other side, and the kind of person you want to be, the kind of people you want to have in your life as you come out into the world and make new connections and new friendships. So it's almost like, and I've said this before, I think in one of these videos, that often what we do is we overestimate what we can do in a short period of time, and we underestimate what we can do in a long period of time. And so it's the kind of remembering of the kind of steps that we need to take kind of day to day, and that can take time, and things could be slow, and it could be frustrating and all of that. But that doesn't mean that in a few years, or maybe that's 5 years, maybe that's 10 years, just how different life can be. And I think what's also fascinating is it only takes one key meeting or conversation, or one new insight, or perhaps one new breakthrough in medicine, in science, for everything to change and be different. And again, you need to be careful that doesn't become this constant pressure that you're trying to find this like one thing that's going to change everything. But if I look back at my life and my life beyond having recovered from ME/CFS, and the things in my life that have been significant, the significant moments of change, or the significant moments of new relationships, or important relationships in my career, for example. And it's extraordinary how you can trace them back to a kind of moment where a decision was made, and that one decision was like a tiny difference at that point. And over time, it becomes a bigger and bigger and bigger change and variance in our life. A little known story that I must have told someone before, but Nikki Gratrix, who was the original director of nutrition at the Optimum Health Clinic, and some people will know, going back 15 years now, but she and I originally were in a relationship, intimate relationship, and then we started working together, and ended up our intimate relationship broke down, and for a period of time we continued to work together. We actually met at a speed dating event, and that speed dating event I very, very nearly didn't go to. In fact, it turned out it was a friend of hers that was organising it that tracked me down and invited me, and I ended up going, and I met her, and of course the Optimum Health Clinic, as it is now, was born out of those early years. And those early years wouldn't have been the way they were if I hadn't made the decision to go to a speed dating event in 2003. Anyway, I'll tell that story, but it's fascinating how we have these like moments of decision, and how our lives are transformed and changed out of those experiences. And so my invitation really is, where are you? Last week was, do you let yourself have times of giving up? And do you give times where you just kind of go, for now, like it's too much, I'm just going to leave myself alone? But also, do you let yourself dream? Do you let yourself think about life on the other side of recovery, and what the things you want to experience, the places you want to go, the people you want to have in your life, the things you want to do? And do you let that be a sense of fuel and oxygen to help support you on the journey to get to that place? And as I say, you need to use that carefully, and you need to use it not in a way to put pressure on yourself, to beat yourself up. If it feels difficult to do that, to have those dreams, I would look at that, because maybe there's beliefs in there around it's not possible to recover, or you won't ever recover, or it's too hard, or you tried everything. And if those kind of beliefs come up, I would definitely look at those and challenge those. Dreaming is important. Allowing yourself to have dreams of the future. And one of the key things with dreams is you don't need to know the path. You don't need to know all the things that have to happen to support it. Maybe the thing that needs to happen to change your life is a speed dating event. Maybe it's a phone call. Maybe it's something you've already doing, and it comes together in a new way and things start to move forwards. Maybe it's everything you already know just used with more patience, more consistency, more practice. Maybe it's just taking that pressure off a little bit for all of those things then to start to connect and come together. But dare to dream, let yourself dream. Remember that that's the fuel, that's part of what supports you. And do not underestimate the value of those constant frustrations and disappointments and the emotional muscle that you build in having to keep responding to that and coming back from that. Don't underestimate the value of that in life, because one of the things that I've found is in my life when I've done some things, particularly I suppose in my career, things that have been extremely challenging and difficult, is I've found myself pretty consistently the most resilient person in the room. And that resilience was born out of those years of having to deal with frustration and failure and disappointment, and still come back and still find a way forward. That's a remarkable quality for anyone to cultivate, and everyone on this journey is forced to cultivate that. So I hope that's been helpful. Thank you for watching. And next week, Nikki, one of the psychology team, is doing an interview. Actually, I think the week after that, I'm doing an interview, which I think is going to be quite an exciting one. It's just being confirmed at the moment. So we are looking to explore this format and shake some things up. And we are definitely planning on moving forward to the podcast. So thank you for the comments on that last week. There are a few comments about keeping it short, and they've been noticed. So we'll make sure that we bear that in mind. And yeah, I hope that's been helpful. And please do share your thoughts and experiences in the comments underneath. Bye-bye for now.